the fundamental makeup of every governmental entity so that it lines up as closely as possible with their vision of what America ought to look like. The Heritage Foundation is also planning to eliminate what they call the administrative state, which pretty much means scrapping or gutting every government agency that regulates anything: food, water standards, education, transportation. It sounds extreme, but this is literally their plan.
What we're doing is systematically preparing to march into office and bring a new army of aligned, trained, and essentially weaponized conservatives ready to do battle against the deep state.
They're essentially preparing to make...
If that doesn't sound genuinely terrifying to you, I really don't know what does. Because what they're saying is they're pre-staffing and getting people to put applications in who only agree with a certain ideology. And if you disagree with this ideology, you're, well, more than likely, if Trump gets power, you're going to be put on the enemies list. I mean, Stephen Miller has already talked about mass staging grounds. Do you remember that from CPAC? We might have to look into that and a further reaction.
over the government in their own image, which is a decidedly white Christian nationalist one. And these folks are not for play. The Heritage Foundation, the nation's most powerful conservative think tank and lobby group, is gearing up for something called Project 2025. You may have heard about it. Well, it's as disturbing as you've probably heard. Worse, actually. The Heritage Foundation is a not-for-profit, right-wing public policy organization that's been around since the early 70s. It was founded for the explicit purpose of advancing conservative values in government. And you might think, that's not so horrible, is it? There are liberal think tanks that do the same thing, right? Nowhere near this level. Besides being funded by scores of multimillionaires, the Heritage Foundation is extremely well organized and is determined to wield its influence at every level of government. They combine forces with over...
I swear to God, it's like, do you remember Hydra from the James Bond movies, where it's just a league of villains, a bunch of rich villains who just want to get richer, see the world burn, and use people who have wedge issues to make it happen? Yeah, it's like Hydra's plan come to life. And once more, like I said, 1933 Germany.
...50 of their fellow conservative lobbying groups to form a sort of right-wing Voltron that will undoubtedly represent the most far-reaching consolidation of power that conservatives have been able to amass up until now. They've pooled their influence and resources and have released a plan that they spent $22 million developing. That's basically a war manual for orchestrating every detail of Trump's next term. Right now with Project 2025, they're soliciting tons of conservatives to submit their resumes and credentials to their website so they can continue to build a right-wing LinkedIn of applicants who will be vetted, interviewed, trained, and ready to step into their new positions on day one of a second Trump presidency. They're even advising them on how to start applying for their national security clearances. They're not wasting any time. They're gearing up for the re-implementing of something called Schedule F, an executive order that Trump signed October of 2020 that would have allowed him to change government policy so that he could fire a bevy of civil servants whose jobs aren't considered political. It's estimated that around 50,000 government employees fall into this category. He didn't want anyone working in government who wasn't going to be a willing foot soldier for his agenda. Biden shut that down immediately, but Trump is planning to reinstate it. So with Project 2025, they want to defund the Department of Justice, completely gut the Environmental Protection Agency, get rid of the Department of Education, the Department of Commerce, and the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, which funds PBS. They want to get rid of the National Endowment for the Arts, get rid of the Commission on Civil Rights, get rid of anything that protects consumers, supports marginalized groups, or regulates businesses. They call those agencies governmental waste. Funny that the Defense Department isn't on that list. They're recommending that all diversity, equity, and inclusion programs in government be scrapped and that any protections for...
That's really their way of being like, what we want is we want a white country. We want a white Christian country. And any people who might be brown or black who are also Christian nationalists are just going to be used as pawns for them to, I don't know, for them to make their evil fucking plans come to life, because they know that, you know, there's always going to be people who genuinely like are Christians. They follow the teachings of Jesus, and they know that they can exploit these people, and they have no problems doing it. And now it's led to the point where Christian nationalism is so inside of government that they're getting ready to staff all of government with white Christian nationalists. That is, unless we stop them at the ballot, because that's the only place that we can do it.
For the LGBTQ community be done away with. The document confoundingly refers to trans people as pornographers and pedophiles and says they ought to be jailed. The line between the church and the state is egregiously crossed again and again. Trump's not going to read the document. He'll get the highlights and let the Heritage Foundation do the heavy lifting. This is a 1,000-page document that he is absolutely not going to take the time to read. The thing that has always made the Heritage Foundation so effective is their ability to condense their policies into bite-sized pieces, so legislators and government officials have a quick reference sheet to know exactly what their position should be and how they should be voting and setting policy. The Heritage Foundation has liaisons on Capitol Hill whose job it is to coach lawmakers on these issues and frame things in a way that they can quickly understand when it's time to cast their votes. And honestly, this isn't even the half of it. And if this sounds alarmist, good. Bells and whistles should be going off in your head right now. Even if the Heritage Foundation is only able to accomplish half of what they have on their wish list, this is not good.
Go to skipfransjr.net for podcasts.
Record player that, I could just spin records all the time.
I run into the bathroom and I'm covered in blood. Like I had put my tooth through my bottom lip.
For music. For gaming and pro-liberty game rants. That's skipfransjr.net.